Rick May says he was cut out of important budget decisions almost from day one of his tenure as Secretary of Finance and Administration under Susana Martinez. And he says his shift to head up the New Mexico Finance Authority now appears to be part of a plan to gut the agency in favor of pushing more public financing bond issues to commercial banks. Now, here to help us hash it out on the line opinion panel, CEO of the New Mexico Green Chamber of Commerce, the newly engaged Laura Sanchez. Congratulations. So good to have you back. From the Waite Company Public Relations, Whitney Waite, our good friend, and former New Mexico House Republican Whip Daniel Foley is back. And super good to have Marisa DeMarco back at this table from her new venture, New Mexico Go Compass. Now, Whitney, Rick May is a well-respected cat, certainly. Among Republicans, he was a solid guy, certainly. Among financial issues, does he have a legitimate beef here? When you read the trail that he laid out in the Santa Fe Reporter and other publications this past week or so, was it credible to you? Did it make sense to you?
You know, all I could think of when I was reading this, and this might be kind of an awful thing to say, but you know how when you break up with people sometimes and everybody, if they handle it really well, you say to yourself, oh, maybe I made a mistake, or maybe I regret this a little bit. Or 9 times out of 10, they behave in an even a worse manner than, than they had been before, and you say to yourself, this is a good split. I don't think he handled it very well at all. I mean, the reality is that by his own language, his own words, he'd been there for 3 months and didn't even understand the type of audit that he was dealing with. And whether it's an unfortunate circumstance or not, if it happened before his tenure, he was at the helm at that time, and all that you can say is that he was asleep at the wheel, and there are certain results that are going to happen if it was under his watch, it happened, you kind of have to accept it and take it. And so I don't know, I think all this after the fact kind of complaining, nobody was talking to me, sounds a little bit kind of like schoolyard stuff. Interesting.
Laura Sanchez, good to see you again. The administration, through the spokesperson Enrique Nell, used the word disgruntled. It was very interesting to hear that come from the administration. Touch on what Whitney just said. Was it credible to you how Mr. May laid this out? Because sometimes government doesn't make a whole lot of sense from the inside. Do you know what I mean? It's hard to explain it to outsiders. I don't know if I'm making sense on that, but your sense of his ending there.
Well, my initial reaction is all due respect to all state employees. It would be hard for me to find one that is not disgruntled these days. So, it's kind of a broad term. There's a lot of people pretty unhappy with the state government employment.
Sure.
On the other hand, I think that what's interesting about his story and his situation is the multi-point plan that has been talked about. This was something that came out after the audit, and in the wake of everything that was going on with the investigation into that fake audit and so forth, or the fake, the audit that had been a part of the news. This plan to basically downsize the NMFA and get rid of it. I think that sort of raises the question whether there was already a plan afoot, whether there was something going on that he even wasn't aware of. But it seems that these stories about Keith Gardner having moved a memo out of the way as he was talking to Rick May about the governor's chief of staff at a meeting, and Rick May's feeling that he was not included in certain budget discussions when he was at DFA. I think these are all indications that there may have been something else afoot. And that should be of big concern to a lot of people, because NMFA has been obviously the audit was a very serious thing, but prior to the audit and all the work that it's done, it really has been an important part of New Mexico state government and has helped a lot of local governments with their infrastructure needs, and has done so in a way that does not, it involves the private sector to a certain extent, but it's really important to have that public sector financing going on. So it's a concern, and I think there may very well be some disgruntledness there, but I would say everybody that's been a part of state government at some level feels disgruntled with their job, particularly at the NMFA.
Sure, and it's difficult, Marisa, to talk about these things after the fact without sounding disgruntled, because you are disgruntled. You're not happy, so you're going to come out and be that way. But let's split this in half. His first tenure, so to speak, and then we just talked about the second bit that he's probably more famous for, is that period of time where that audit came up. That idea of the authority being that backstop for local municipalities and governments and things, and being separate from the clutches of any given administration. Was the man just basically trying to advocate for something that ran up against some other idea in that fourth floor administration? Is that what really just happened here? Just two conflicting views?
I think what you're getting at is kind of the part of why this matters to the public. And that's that the New Mexico Finance Authority is able to offer its services for lower fees than private companies. This is what May is saying. So if that's the case, and if the governor's administration is in effect kind of downsizing the New Mexico Finance Authority or looking to do that in some capacity, this would enable private companies to take on some of that work. And May is arguing that it would be at a greater cost to the taxpayers. So this is kind of why this story matters to people, and that it's not just an inside story of who's feeling upset about losing their job or what happened behind the scenes. That's kind of the part of it that matters to taxpayers.
Dan, I'm going to get you to sum up all of this, what you've just heard. Is this in fact two things going on here? We've got an ex-CEO now who had a different idea about how the direction of this agency should run versus the administration. Again, is this the crux of the matter? And who's right here? Is he right or?
Great question. First, I got to disclose. I mean, Rick May worked for me when I was the whip. I brought him back to New Mexico, got him to be our budget guy. Rick May's a bright guy. I think Rick May's the victim of an election. And what I mean by that is he didn't realize he wasn't running for governor. Susana Martinez was running for governor. And it's not his policies that are going to be implemented. It's the winner of the election whose policies are going to be implemented. That's Governor Martinez.
That's good in the broad sense, but again, in the narrow focus of what this agency does.
Well, this agency, we know that for about a 4-month period, this agency was completely inoperative.
Right.
And they still worked with outside entities. I'm being told that at less of a cost, private sector people did it than the government did it for. So it's not the great savings that everybody says it is. It was like most government things, in my opinion. I mean, this is a news shocker, Gene. Susana Martinez is trying to privatize something, and Susana Martinez is trying to downsize government. That's a shock. Really? I mean, that's what she campaigned on. She campaigned on cutting the size of state government, streamlining things, privatizing what she can. And so I think that today, with the way the New Mexico Finance Authority started out, they had a very good mission. That mission was, there's no big banks here, there's no big entities back there back when this started. Nobody from New York is out here doing bond transactions. You got to have that New York relationship to get it done. They served a great purpose because it was very difficult at that time for Cloudcroft to go get a bond issue done.
Sure.
That's changed. Technology has changed because of things. So I think now there's private sector folks that are doing this. We know they were closed down for 4 months during this investigation, and we know that they let bonds go. They still did it with private entities. So I think at the end of the day, we're looking, you asked about two things to summarize it. One is, I think Rick May, again, a good man. He came up against his policy versus Governor Martinez's policy, and the governor's going to win.
Sure. Let me get Laura in on this. Go ahead.
So the way that the NMFA is structured, the benefit to taxpayers is the fact that they're issuing public debt. They're issuing debt with basically backing of the state. That means that they're also tax exempt. That tax exempt turns into a lower rate, essentially. It means that it is cheaper to issue that debt than it is to pay for private debt. I understand what you're saying about the fact that
you can still issue tax exempt debt through the public facilities.
Not in the same way that the
yes, you can.
They also have a public project revolving fund, which has a huge amount of money in it and has contributed to their bond rating. That also, basically, you come up with all kinds of projects out of that fund. And that fund, it's a revolving fund that comes through, and it's a lower interest rate.
Well, but I
so
don't
it's a
think
different structure.
Actually established that was the goal of any of this anyways. I mean, you've got a guy who's very upset about losing his job, feeling like he got muscled out.
NMFA's still there. They're still working. I haven't seen anything about closing it down.
So I think that the supposition that it was actually, that they were somehow, hatcheting the NMFA projects is, I don't.
But I think you're seeing, Gene, I think you're seeing a difference between Laura and I, a philosophy. Laura sees that there's a need for this governmental entity to do this quasi-governmental entity. I think there's a need, possibly that's been filled already, and the private sector can deliver it. Now that's fair to debate, but I think that the governor, I think Whitney's right. I haven't seen any movement, even after the debacle there, to close down NMFA. They're still, the New Mexico Finance Authority is still up and running, is still doing business today.
Let's see how it plays out. As they say, in a moment, the biggest supporter of a constitutional amendment to spend more money on early childhood education goes toe-to-toe with the senator who has blocked its path through the legislature each of the last 2 years.